Today, I would like to talk about the branches of the self versus the roots of the self. So, when we're clinging to aspects of the branches, these are what we might call derivatives. When we're clinging from a place of attachment, we're seeking out, looking for something that didn't come before us, something that came after us. We were born and then in our lifetime or from this moment in the future. And in the other direction, if we're looking at what came before us, what's already here, it would be a contrivative. It would be the roots. It would be something that we are the effect of or the receiver of. So, in other words, as a tree, we might have our roots so clean, so pure, but our branches themselves grow like a weeping willow and touching all these things around, and they're dirty and they could come up onto the shoots we're sending out and come back. And we know this to be true with the nervous system, which is shaped a lot like a tree. Because if, let's say, I get hurt in my hand, there is such a body of research to show that if I don't treat this, it can spread back up through the peripheral nervous system, into the central nervous system, into the brain. So everything's connected, and we've got to do what we call pruning, and the brain does this too. We know all about use it or lose it. Why is that even an issue? Is because the brain itself takes away things that don't serve us by cutting those pathways away. The more we use new pathways that are sustainable, that are more elevated, that are growing. And when I say elevated, I just mean they don't fall back on the tried and true system of like the old path. But if we go to the wilderness and we see a dirty old path that is muddy and swampy and just really unattractive, we might look around and see if there's anything a little cleaner and something that may be a little more sustainable. Perhaps it might be with something that has stones on the bottom, even wood. So these fortifications are possible on these paths, and they happen in the mind as well. So when we have an old pathway that causes harm and messiness, the brain is actually looking for new ways to handle coping. And the same is true for that tree. When we're always looking out for something new, the consciousness wants to look back and see, what do I already have? What am I? What am I capable of in a real way? So the point of this is to set up a footpath that is sustainable of the true self, and not one that every time we go on it quickly just because we don't have the time to set up a proper footpath. But the footpath could sustain long-term usage. The muddy path cannot sustain long-term usage. So looking at the contrivatives, looking at where we came from, what came before this moment, is very helpful. And looking at like all the things that came after is sometimes forgetting to do pruning, forgetting to cut away the side pieces, and actually we become very bent over. It's very heavy. A tree that doesn't let go of its fruit or the dying branches will no longer be able to carry its energy. It ends up becoming unable to grow. So we have a tree and a footpath of consciousness, and it's important that we do this work of cutting away anything that's not serving us anymore so we can maintain clean roots. And I'd like to now give a list of all the things that came after. So this cannot be who we are because we still have many more to come. So we're going to just cut off a little bit for a moment from all of these aspects of the self, which aren't the self, in order to then see where we might be able to straighten up a little and, what might be the kind of like bent over. So these are differences in everybody, likes, comforts, familiarities, for example. And how I'd like to do this is I'm going to say, I am not my likes. I am not my comforts. I am not my familiarities. You might want to repeat with me. It's very strong affirmations for the self. It's liberating, even if at moments it's a little difficult, because we want to be that. Because it's become comfortable. It's a muddy footpath, and we don't necessarily want to spend energy on creating it's a muddy path. It's not, we don't necessarily at the moment want to spend the energy on creating a footpath. Or we might just like leave the branches where they are. We may not want to spend those moments on cutting the ones that are not serving us. I am not my beauty preferences. I'm not my interests. I'm not my pleasures. I'm not my wills. I'm not my ambitions. I am not my grants. I am not my strengths. I'm not my courage. I'm not my abilities. I am not my values. I am not my madness. I'm not my rules. I'm not my unattachment cues. I am not my communing. I am not my gifts. I am not my grace. I am not my performances. I am not my rituals. I am not my opportunities. I am not my conveniences. I'm not my priorities. I am not my relationships. I am not my families. I am not my histories. I am not my location. I am not my cultures. I am not my biology. I am not my health. I am not my disposition. I am not my humor. I am not my independence. I am not my security. I am not my attachments. I am not my prices. I am not my knowledge. I am not my judgments. I am not my accounting. I am not my interpretations. I am not my meanings. I am not my projections. I am not my defenses. I am not my joys. I am not my sorrows. I am not my tolerances. I am not my challenges. I am not my balances. I am not my predictions. I am not my vulnerabilities. I am not my significances. I am not my trajectories. I am not my works. I am not my perceptions. I am not my blind spots. I am not my intuitions. I am not my discretions. I am not my manners. I am not my cravings. I am not my sensations. I am not my urges. I am not my biases. I am not my vices. And breathing in, I am. And breathing out, I am. Breathing out all the differences, all the different selves, all the different aspects. With a big sigh. Resting in the space of I am, it's important now to look at the muddy path, to looking at the ways, the branches that are bent over, the muddy path, which is old habits, which the brain, the mind, and the body are letting us know aren't working. We don't need to run away from it. We just need to recognize that it's not for us to protect the branches that aren't serving us, or the muddy path. It's not to us to protect those. It's for us to witness what it's causing. So I've made a list of all the areas where I have the wrong intentions. Perhaps I'm trying to keep a muddy path. Perhaps I'm trying to have like the branches bend down. And for the sake of straightening the bent, I'm going to read this list, and I encourage you to make your own. First, hypocritical standards of effort because I thought my path was worse. In other words, my expectations of others' footpaths, how they should be, or their branches. Having sex while not feeling loved or loving out of fear of being abandoned to keep someone attached and as dependent on me as I felt on them. Undermining other people's values and contributions because I felt so tiny, without confidence or efficacy. And as a comment, the reason this comes so easily, things that are perhaps our scariest demons, is because we're not these demons. These are not the branches we have to identify as. We are the clean roots. We are the energy of health. We are the energy of truth. And so this work is necessary. We are the energy that builds a stable, sustainable footpath, that grows beautiful branches that don't bend over because they can't carry their own weight. Money. I was afraid to be unable to distract myself from pain and humiliation. So I was dishonest and took just to get free without having a price to pay, and even did what I would now consider prostitution ways in order to be of being convinced to trade. Somebody would convince me to give my energy, my love, my purity, my space, my womb, and they would give me what was resources, physical, tangible things, and the things I gave were priceless, infinite value. Lying or being dishonest, even exaggerating, falsely testifying, swearing, or even saying, I swear to God, because I didn't want to give up the full self, or identifying with those ideals. Imagining violence and suffering on people I loved or people I didn't love because I couldn't express how much it hurt when I felt disregarded or forsaken. Coming late, leaving early, bringing up negativity, all out of extreme loneliness, inability to consider the shared time and space, the company, as valuable due to being unable to even recognize the worth of my own being, my own lifetime. Wanting people to stay sick so they wouldn't go off and start a new life, so they wouldn't, run away. But I was running away from people who were going through difficulty because I wanted to focus on my new life. And abandoning people who needed me. Lashing out at groups, others, leaders of communities from a place of not wanting to take accountability, excusing myself, even on the internet, not wanting to learn how to expose my insides because I felt too exposed. Without privacy, feeling invaded, like people just should know, and expecting them to know, and then feeling like overly seen. And this includes my needs, my uncertainties, my boundaries, and my limits, feeling like those were who I am, and if somebody knew them, then I was totally exposed and could be used like an instrument. They had all my secrets. And so I would, if somebody made me feel like they could see them, I felt I had to protect them. Believing I was above the rules because so many rules had been used to hurt me, whether it was religion or the family system or women or bigotry. And I felt dehumanized and shamed. And so I felt the rules don't apply to me, but I still expected others to follow rules that made me feel safe and comfortable. And finally, a general demeanor and a tendency mentally for constantly judging. So nitpicking, analyzing, over-examining, accusing, nonstop. Even thinking that empathy itself is pathetic, not recognizing that pathetic is a good thing, to be filled with pathos. And to have a thick skin, I've heard this called, and a soft heart, is to remove the armor of the heart and trust the armor of the being. So I didn't have that ability. I just really felt insecure and deficient. I felt weak. I felt cowardly. I didn't respect myself. And so I was so bent over this false self with my self-esteem issues that I couldn't do the work yet. The work is really being conscious. And I wasn't able to see my intentions were for pushing away. I thought I so desperately wanted to be loved and to be close, but I had such old muddy past of pushing away those who had hurt me that I never learned how to relate, engage. I was hiding the very parts of me that needed to be seen, and then feeling overly seen in the areas that I was shoving out, and yet that was not even who I wanted to be seen as. So definitely letting go of all these branches and the muddy paths is a worthwhile step that will go a long way in terms of recovering the true self, which is always with us and is mostly undefinable. And even when we can describe it, even as much as I try to, the description is never the described. This is what we call the godly part of us, the whole part of us, the all of us. And I wish for you all, whoever is listening now, to experience the benefits of this practice and to feel liberated from a false self or impure intentions, of feeling bent over, of feeling like you have to defend aspects of yourself that aren't really you, and of continuously doing the same old sabotaging behaviors of ourselves in our relationship just because we weren't able to see that we're not all these different derivatives of ourselves. We're not all the branches. Blessings. Have a beautiful day.